Hello and welcome to the virtual launch of ARC, DCU's Anti-Corruption Research Centre, Ireland's first academic centre dedicated to research and education on corruption.
Michael and I have been studying corruption for the better part of a decade, and our work and that of other ARC members has shown us that corruption undermines economic and social progress.
ARC builds DCU's strong capacity in this area and brings together top researchers from across our university, including academics from law, political science, management, economics and accounting.
ARC will work with our partners in government, industry and civil society to develop effective anti-corruption interventions and policies.
ARC wouldn't have been possible without the support of our partners. We're very grateful to everyone, particularly Professor Breen, MacCraith and DCU's academic community, as well as our founding members and International Advisory Committee. And now, Professor MacCraith, President of DCU, will introduce our next speaker.
Welcome to the virtual launch of DCU's Anti-Corruption Research Centre, ARC. I greatly welcome the creation of this new centre, the first in Ireland dedicated to research, policy impact and education on corruption and anti-corruption. With the establishment of ARC, it is great to see DCU filling what was a clear gap in the institutional landscape. When Rob and Michael first came to me some time back with this concept, I immediately welcomed it. Why was that? Well, because this work and this focus is critically important for the well-being of our shared society. Corruption imposes an enormous cost on citizens and societies right across the globe. And sadly, Ireland is far from immune from this. Indeed, it's fair to say that fighting corruption in an effective manner is a vital part of global efforts to achieve a sustainable future for us all, and indeed to deliver on the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Many of you will be aware that DCU researchers are already doing excellent work in many aspects of this space. But by creating ARC, we are amplifying our collective research capacity and expertise in terms of analysis and impact. The collaborative framework afforded by the Centre is vital to its success. Corruption is a very complex issue, and anti-corruption efforts require innovations across many research areas, such as private and public sector management, leadership and practice, institutional and legal design, education, norm building, and technology. Through its work, the ARC will increase the capacity to analyse and understand the causes and consequences of corruption, as well as supporting the development of new anti-corruption policies, strategies, and interventions. ARC's deliverables will include academic and policy relevant research, revenue generation, of course, executive education and continuing professional development programs, and engagement with civil society, the media, and policymakers. It's fitting that this centre is being established just as we celebrate 40 years of DCU. The values underpinning ARC are clearly aligned with the enduring principles of this university, with its particular commitment to active engagement with government, industry, and civil society. And the work done by ARC researchers will, in the words of DCU's mission, transform lives and societies. By establishing the DCU Anti-Corruption Research Centre, I am very confident that our researchers will create even more opportunities to positively influence public debate and in turn shape domestic and international anti-corruption policy. In conclusion, I would like to congratulate everyone involved in establishing ARC, but in particular its co-directors and co-founders, Dr. Michael Breen from our School of Law and Government, and Dr. Rob Gillanders from DCU Business School. I wish you every success and congratulations. And now I'm delighted to introduce our next speaker, a great friend and supporter of this university, the Minister for Finance, Public Expenditure and Reform, Paschal Donohoe TD. On behalf of DCU, I'd like to thank the Minister and to issue a warm virtual welcome to him. Minister, we look forward to hearing your thoughts on ARC and its focus.
Hello, Paschal Donohoe here. I wanted to send a quick message to all in DCU who were involved in this really important initiative in relation to corruption. As somebody who's really proud to be a politician, I am very much aware of the many causes of discontent that so many have regarding the practice of politics and the concerns that so many have regarding whether politics is being practiced on their behalf. That's why it's so important that we research and understand the effect, the causes of corruption on political life, and we use this to better inform policy making in that area. So thank you very much for your work, and I look forward to hearing more about it, and I look forward to it informing the work that we do here at home and abroad, in the work that Ireland can do in combating corruption and critically combating the consequences that corruption can have on public and political life. Thank you for your work.
Hi, I'm Liz Barrett, and I'm the Director of the Centre for the Study of Corruption at the University of Sussex in the UK. And I'm really delighted that DCU is now setting up an anti-corruption research centre. I'm really looking forward to working with them on that. Studying corruption is really important because governments are supposed to serve the public interest, but it's important that we, the public and civil society, can hold them to account in doing so. And to do that, we need to be able to collect evidence and monitor their behaviour, and also to engage with governments and help them think about how to make processes more immune to corruption. A lot of my research is about public procurement. That's an area where there's a lot of public spending. Typically around about 30% of public spending in OECD countries is through public procurement. So it's a really important area, but it's also one that can be quite vulnerable to corruption. So contracts can be given to cronies, they can be given to companies in exchange for kickbacks, and there's often really poor monitoring of how contracts are actually implemented, and that in itself also raises a lot of corruption risks. So that's one important area where I think we need to build up capacity and expertise so that we can work out the difference between a good process and a poor process and identify where there are risks of corruption occurring. So I'm really looking forward to working with DCU, to building bridges between UK and Irish and global communities, studying corruption, researching corruption, and also putting anti-corruption into practice and working with those practitioners who are there on the front line but able to change things and make sure government does serve the people.
Hello, my name is Clifford. I'm the Special Correspondent for the Irish Examiner. In my opinion, the study of corruption is very important for a number of different reasons. One I'd like to mention is this idea of the perception of exactly what corruption is. By that I mean that in a number of sectors, in public life, in industry, in areas like law enforcement, there has over the years been practices that those working in the industry would not consider corrupt. Yet when they're examined by any outside agency, that becomes very obvious. Just to give you a couple of examples, I was very much involved in following the planning tribunal in Dublin Castle. There you had practices whereby, for instance, developers gave donations to councillors in order to organise that rezoning was done in a particular way. Now, until that was properly examined, those who operated within the council did not consider such practices to be corrupt. There was some instances whereby councillors took what were effectively bribes, but apart from that, the whole area of donations was not considered to be corrupt by those who were working in the industry. It was considered to be a way of life. Only when we have outside agencies, particularly in academia, studying corruption and bringing this sort of thing to the fore and setting out what exactly is going on, is there going to be a recognition that practices like that are simply unacceptable. A similar scenario pertained in the area of Garda corruption. Maurice McCabe brought a number of allegations to the fore, but in particular, in one instance, he concentrated on the quashing of penalty points for road traffic offences. Now, again, within the force, that was largely considered not to be corrupt. It was accepted as a way of life. Of course, now, once Mr. McCabe brought it out, once it had got proper oxygen, it was discovered that quite obviously this was corrupt. That is one area of the whole study of corruption that I think is very much needed. It is the outside agency shining a light in on what is going on and defining whether or not it is corrupt, whether or not it is acceptable behaviour in our modern world today.
When I began this work more than 15 years ago, you could count the number of people publishing, researching on corruption and anti-corruption in Ireland on one hand. And this is in spite of the near immeasurable costs of corruption to the world economy, to society, to the environment. It's in spite of the prevalence of corruption in Irish politics in the previous 2 decades. So it's a great relief. It's fantastic to see that Dublin City University now launching an anti-corruption research centre, which will inform future generations of policymakers, scholars and practitioners on both the costs and solutions to corruption. And we very much look forward to working with the centre in the future too.
Hello everyone. I'm Dr. Amadou Boly and I work as Special Assistant to the Chief Economist and Vice President at the African Development Bank. I'm making this video to congratulate Dr. Michael Breen and Dr. Rob Gillanders for the initiative to set up an anti-corruption research centre at Dublin City University and for their appointments as co-directors. Corruption is one of the greatest obstacles to economic and social development, and I'm sure the center will bring together various talents that will cross-fertilize in order to better understand and fight corruption. I'm also really pleased and honored by the invitation to serve on the advisory board of the center. Corruption is a research area I'm very much interested in, and I look forward to continuing work in this field. The African Development Bank has a zero-tolerance policy towards corruption, and it works continuously to promote good governance in its regional member countries through policy dialogue and institutional support projects. We therefore look forward to benefiting from the findings of the Anti-Corruption Research Centre at Dublin City University. Once again, congratulations. I wish every success to the centre. And given that the centre is located in Ireland, I'm also taking this opportunity to welcome Ireland to the FDB family as the 81st member country. Thank you very much and warm regards.
6 months ago, it was unimaginable that a guard could have directed you to go home because you were going for a walk 3 kilometres from your house. And the powers obviously have potential to interfere with rights to liberty, to silence, assembly, association, and even family life. There's very real national importance behind these powers, but as the overseers of policing, it's the job of the policing authority to oversee how they're being used. To that end, we very much appreciate your clear statement that enforcement should always be a last resort. And our focus will be on ensuring that the exceptional powers, when they are being used fairly, respectfully, in ways that comply with human rights. I think in order for us to do that, we do have to have as much information as possible about the use of the powers. So far, we've received numbers relating to arrests, but that's just 3 of the 5 powers that have been granted. The authority is clear that the Minister has asked for use of any of the powers to be recorded. And we believe this information is important for your organisation, for us to comply with our oversight functions. It's also of huge public importance for the public health crisis and for confidence in policing. So we're of the view that you've been given this quite exceptional power to direct people to go home or to move in order to comply with regulations. We believe you should be able to account to us and to the public for the use of that power.
We would like to thank all of our speakers today for their contribution. The centre wouldn't have been possible without their support.
We're very much looking forward to working with all of our partners over the next several years.